Hey guys, and welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. On this night I'm going to be making a homemade version of cheeseburger, Hamburger Helper, and hopefully a little healthier. I used turkey, mushrooms, bell pepper, onion, garlic, and because I was using turkey I decided to use beef base just to give it a more meaty flavor. I'm just going to saute that up, and then I have some seasonings, which is a little tiny bit of sugar, paprika, garlic, garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of cornstarch because that's going to thicken everything up. And I'm just mixing that in a bowl. I like to mix it up first before I put it in, just so the cornstarch is kind of equally distributed a little better. As a side, I'm going to be making zucchini and squash sauteed, and Willow really loves zucchini and squash, so I made a lot so she had extra for dinner. After I add the seasoning to the meat mixture, I added 1 cup of very hot water, 2 cups of milk, and then 1.5 cups of macaroni noodles. And after I mix that up, I'm just going to let that boil and start to thicken. I'm just making super simple sauteed squash and zucchini with a little bit of onion powder, butter, salt, pepper, and just letting that saute up. Just real easy. Once the noodles are tender and everything's thickened up, I added about 1.5 cups of cheddar cheese. You could probably stick with a cup, but we like cheese, and I had it on hand, so I just went ahead and added a little extra. And everything's just about done. On this night, I started by boiling the purple potatoes, and this is Zach just smashing them for me so I can top them with olive oil, salt, pepper, and a little bit of Parmesan later on. I got my cast iron super hot with a little bit of oil, and then I put my bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, skin down. It was also seasoned with salt and pepper, and then let that cook so it got a really nice crust on it. Then I'm just gonna flip it, and once these have cooked for a little bit on each side, I don't want them to cook all the way through, but for maybe about like 2/3 of the way through. And then I'm going to take those out and start sauteing onion, and I'll add a little bit of garlic, a little bit later too with some mushrooms. I had like 3 or 4 different kinds of mushrooms from the mushroom guy at the Fort Pierce Farmers Market. He was amazing, and these mushrooms were really, really good in the sauce. And I also added some homemade sun-dried tomatoes from the farmers market as well. I really like to let mushrooms and onions just sit for a little while undisturbed. I think it gives them a really nice caramelized flavor, and I think it just really adds a lot to a dish. Y'all, I got a huge bag of sun-dried tomatoes for $1 from the farmer's market. Do you know how much they cost in the store? Like $4 for a jar, and this bag was like 2 or 3 times the size of that jar. So I'm putting in everything. I made an omelet the other day with it, and it was delicious. So I'm just living my best life with my sun-dried tomatoes. For these smashed purple potatoes, I'm literally drowning them in Parmesan cheese because we had to use this Parmesan cheese up, and I thought this would be delicious, and you know, I was right. Do not, I repeat, do not ever throw away the rind of your Parmesan wedge. Add it to a sauce, add it to a soup. It is delicious, and you will thank me later. On this night, I was making a huge batch of spaghetti sauce. I like to make a really big batch and then freeze 2 or 3 servings of it, so that way we can have really easy dinners. And I also like to use ground turkey because, one, it's cheaper at my store and it's a little bit healthier, but I always add beef base and steak seasoning to it, so it makes you, like, tricks your mind into thinking that you're having beef when you're not. I don't know if it's common, but my mom told us to put a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, maybe a tablespoon or 2, into our spaghetti, and it is absolutely delicious. I'd love it if y'all tried it out if you haven't before, and let me know in the comments below if you liked it and if you thought that it amped up your spaghetti a little bit. I use the pre-made spaghetti sauce instead of the traditional tomato sauce because it's the same exact price and you get more depth of flavor with the pre-made spaghetti sauce. But I also add my own seasonings later, and I like to add a little bit of butter because Binging with Babish told me to, and I love it. On this night, I forgot to record what I put in the crock pot, but I made a Tex-Mex vegetable soup with corn, tomatoes, zucchini, carrots, bell peppers, like any vegetable I could possibly find in my house. Oh, mushrooms. I just put everything in there, and then we topped it with a little bit of lime and avocado, and we had some leftover garlic bread from spaghetti, so we used that to dump. It was delicious. On this night, I made Swiss chicken casserole. It's super easy to throw together. I just cut up my chicken breast and put it in the bottom of the pan, and then I mixed together about half a cup of milk with a can of cream of chicken soup, which I don't love using, but it was like an easy meal for me to throw together, so I ended up using it. I tossed in some rosemary, garlic powder, and onion powder, salt and pepper, and mixed that up and poured that on top of the chicken. And then I placed 6 slices of Swiss cheese on top of the soup mixture, and then I sprinkled the stuffing mix on top with all the seasonings at the bottom that settled too, so like all of it. And then I melted some butter and drizzled that on top. Then I covered it with foil and put it in the oven at 375 for about 45 minutes. Then I took the foil off and let the top crisp up for another 15-20 minutes. Feeling well later this night and not eating dinner with everybody. That's why you don't have like a completed meal clip, but I served it with with honey pecan salad and some leftover sauteed squash and zucchini. Everyone really enjoyed it, so I might try to make it without all the processed canned and boxed stuff. And when I do that, I'll let you know, and we'll see how that goes. This night my cousin Piper was over and she wanted to help me cook, and she is a great little helper. I have her cutting up some grape tomatoes, and I'm gonna cut up some avocado later for that salad, a little side salad, and then I'm cutting up onion and cucumber, and I'm gonna put some balsamic vinegar and oil and basil and salt and pepper and let that marinate. And then the tomatoes are gonna have lime, olive oil, salt and pepper. And that's going to marinate, and that's going to be it's delicious. Willow loves it too, and it's really nice to have on hand to give her for lunch and breakfast and dinner. Super easy, but it went really well with our meal tonight because my mom got us some fresh mackerel for me to make, and I ended up pan searing it, and it was really good. For the mackerel fillets, I just got my cast iron like super hot, and while that was getting hot, I seasoned the mackerel with just some salt and pepper. I put some like canola oil in the bottom of the pan. I'm putting it skin side down so it can get nice and crispy. And then later on, I'll put like a pat or two of butter and a little bit of lemon into the pan while it's cooking, and it turned out great. Willow loved it too, which was a plus because we don't have fish all the time, so she's not quite used to the fish flavor, but she really enjoyed it. If you notice the camera moving, it's Willow. She thought it wasn't quite right, so she fixed it for me. With our side salads and fish, I also made roasted cauliflower, sweet potato, and purple potatoes. And this dinner was super quick and easy to throw together, especially with Piper's help, and it was delicious. I have Sunday dinners with my parents every Sunday. My mom makes the best food. If you don't like meatloaf, her meatloaf you would like, trust me. And this time I decided to make a chocolate fudge cake with Piper for everybody, and it turned out really well, and it was super simple. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the recipes down below. Comment, subscribe, and follow me on my social media.